All right, the next team that we are going to look at in advance of the February trade deadline is the Dallas Mavericks. And the Mavericks have been at the epicenter of a lot of trade discussions over the last couple of weeks. Dallas has been one of the most disappointing teams of this season. Anthony Davis has been riddled by injuries. Kyrie Irving has yet to play. And not even the brilliance of Cooper Flagg has been enough to keep the Mavericks all that competitive. So what do? Couple things to note right off the top. Dallas has a very expensive roster. Bobby Marks, the former Nets exec who has done an outstanding job with this stuff over at ESPN, he was the first to note this. But if Dallas does nothing before the deadline, they will be a luxury tax team again, which creates penalties for the repeater tax. And next season, they are looking at a payroll and tax penalties of right around $370 million, all for a team that is not close to being competitive. So there is some pressure because of the finances for Dallas to do something. The Mavericks, there are guys that are untouchable, of course. Like Cooper Flagg is not going to get traded. The Mavericks have also shown no interest in any kind of trade for Kyrie Irving. I don't think the market is robust for Kyrie Irving right now, coming off the ACL tear. But the Mavericks, from what I'm told, really want to see what Cooper Flagg looks like playing opposite an elite point guard. And when Kyrie Irving was healthy last season, he was still one of the best point guards in the NBA. So there is some anxiousness within Dallas to see how that dynamic works both this year and into next season. The player the Mavericks are having conversations about is Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis under contract for the next 2 years, a player option in the 26-27 season. That's worth about $62 million. They've talked to teams about Anthony Davis. They've talked to Atlanta about Davis. They've talked to Golden State about Davis. There's an expectation that there'll be some kind of conversation with Chicago about Davis. Davis is from Chicago, and the Bulls could certainly use some help in that front court. But the Mavericks have been talking to teams about AD. They've been doing a lot of the engaging on AD over the last couple of weeks, just to see what the market would look like and see what they could potentially get for him. With Atlanta, the Mavs would love to get their hands on that unprotected first-round pick that the Hawks have that's coming by way of New Orleans. New Orleans right now has the worst record in the Western Conference. That is looking like it's going to be a very high lottery pick and one that could potentially be the first overall pick in what is expected to be a loaded NBA draft. So that's a conversation that the Mavericks have had. The Hawks have been very resistant to that. They want to hold on to that pick. They see the value in that asset. The Hawks have Trae Young that they could deal to make salaries match, but at this point, the Mavs have shown no interest in acquiring Trae Young. So, Dallas is having these conversations, but right now, there's not a lot of traction. I would also point out that from an ownership level, there is still a feeling that they would like to see what a team with Flagg, Kyrie, and AD can do. Remember, these guys have played 0 minutes together. AD and Kyrie only played parts of one game together. Cooper Flagg has not played with Kyrie at all this season. So there's a feeling at the ownership level. They'd like to see if this team can compete. And even though it's been a rough season in Dallas, they are still right there at the edge of the play-in spot. So if they can get Kyrie back, if AD can stay healthy, there's a belief that maybe they can make a run into the play-in, maybe get a playoff spot and give someone like Cooper Flagg some valuable experience and kick the can down the road on a potential trade for AD to this offseason. Look, I think ultimately a trade for Anthony Davis is going to happen, whether it's in February or in the offseason. AD has been looking for a contract extension. The Mavericks are not going to give him one. He's just not part of their long-term future, especially as he hits his mid-30s. So I think an AD trade out of Dallas is inevitable. But right now, even though the Mavericks are talking to teams about Anthony Davis, and they would trade him if they got the kind of offer that they're looking for, from an ownership level, there is a desire to see what this team could look like when it is fully healthy. And there's a belief that at some point over the next few weeks into February, that if Kyrie can come back, get back to being his former self, that this team could still make a little bit of noise down the stretch in the Western Conference.